support with that left leg. So left leg's on, so you're riding the right lead. Ride, ride, ride. Yes, ride. Good job. Whoop.
She's like, that was hard. I'm gonna do something.
Hey everyone, so I'm here with my wife Emily, who is a dressage trainer and rider, and she's got a horse that she has in training named Rugby, and she asked me for a little bit of help with something. So could you kind of share with us what challenges you were having and what you would like some help with?
Yeah, this horse is in training for an adult amateur with the goal of showing second level. So we're schooling some more advanced movements like half pass and flying lead changes, counter canter sort of things. And she'll like push into your leg, she'll get really heavy on one rein or like shoulder and not yield at all. Like you can't change her flexion. She just shuts down kind of and just kind of pushes into it all in those moments. And I haven't figured out a way to kind of help her through that.
Okay.
And it's coming up in the more advanced movements that we're struggling with those because of that.
All right.
So.
Well, let me see you get warmed up and we'll see what we can do.
All right.
So one of the things that I'm really big on is getting the horse to have a connection to the rider's idea. And as you get into upper level movements like doing a counter canter, doing a lead change, something like that, it requires really, really solid understanding of some of the basics. And so some of the basics that you would need for moves like that is control over the hindquarters, like haunches in. You would need really good control over the flexion, because that would be one of the indicators if you're going to do a flying change, is you would change the flexion to the lead you're going to be taking, then you'd release your leg. Is that the same way you would ask for it?
Yes, I do just a hair bit of a change of flexion, and then I put the new outside leg on.
Yeah, and you would release the leg that was keeping her in the lead.
Yeah,
yeah.
like there, yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to have you do with her is I want to do some isolations of each of those yields and see where she's at with them. So let's start, what I usually like to start with is the flexion. So what I'm going to have you do is just trot a circle, probably just down here, and it can be fairly big, but on that circle, what I'd like to see you do is exaggerate the flexion to the inside, because when I watch you ride her, I see you ride her a lot kind of with the emphasis on the vertical flexion and not a lot of lateral. But for her understanding, so physically, when a horse's nose is bent past their inside knee, you're taking away some of the power that they have and their ability to have more engaged movements. And so in dressage, they're really looking for the horse to use their body very well. They're looking for position. In horsemanship, we focus more on connection, which is the horse's mental understanding of what it is we're doing. And so I understand this isn't going to be asking her to collect more, but it is going to help her to see if there's any brace with the lateral bend first. The other advantage is if the horse's nose is bent more to the inside, or you can change the flexion in a little bit more dramatic way to the outside, you're focusing more on one rein at a time and that bend in their body, and that's an easy place to get rid of brace that they may have, okay? And so this is an exercise, not a maneuver, not a movement that you're going for. And so I'm just gonna have you trot a circle, and you're gonna exaggerate the flexion to the inside. Then once that feels soft, then I want you to go back to kind of straight, and then into a counter bend as you trot her on a circle.
And just the neck?
Just the neck, but you're gonna have to use some outside leg to keep the outside leg is gonna tell her to turn her shoulders and move around.
Okay, but just bend in the neck.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, we'll do that both ways.
At the trot?
Yes. So we ultimately are gonna need it at a canter. I think the canter is where this horse gets a little bit more bracey. The trot, that's something else that I think is important for people to understand. The trot is significantly easier than the canter. The canter, if you're riding a bike or a motorcycle and you're going really slow, it's very hard to keep it straight. When you add speed, it gets straighter. And that's also how horses feel. When you're going slower, it's easier to move their body around because their bodies aren't as straight. The faster you go, the more speed you add, cantering, the straighter they become and the more you lose some of those kind of things. So we're just gonna test this a little bit. So let me see the inside flexion first. So she kind of went right to the outside. I want you to see really exaggerate it to the inside. But what I don't want is for her to turn more. So this is how we're isolating the flexion. I don't want her to turn more, I just want you to exaggerate it to the inside. And you can kind of give with your outside rein a little bit. We're not looking for like collected movement or anything like that. We're just isolating the flexion more. So she'll be using her inside leg to help keep the horse out on the circle. So I want to exaggerate that a little bit more. If you've got a horse, you've already understood that horsemanship is more of a journey than a destination. There's a lot of problems that can come up, and it's really helpful to have a guide on that journey. If you'd like, I would like to help be your guide, and I can do that through my Patreon page. We have tons of videos on there that you can watch and follow the right sequence. You can also message me and ask me questions and even do video coaching. Not to mention we do monthly giveaways. I'll leave a link in the description below. Let's get back to the video. When a person can feel like anybody can kind of pull a rein and make a horse put their body in a position. The question is, did the horse get soft and find some comfort there find relief off the pressure of the rein, moving off the rider's leg and still be relaxed. And so when you can time it and feel when that horse gets softer to you, horses seek comfort, and so they're gonna want to do those positions more. If the horse is bracy while we're putting them in these positions, these exercises to kind of set up our maneuvers, if they're getting bracy and we release on that, we're putting more brace into them. But if we put them in kind of some binds here and get them to find softness, it means they're understanding how to give to that pressure and they're turning loose to it. And that's what's going to lead to us being able to ask for more difficult maneuvers and still have the horse be connected with us and understanding what we're doing. Does one side feel easier than the other, like inside or outside or right circle versus left circle?
Bending her right feels a little easier.
On your right circle or when you were going left?
Well, I haven't bent her to the outside yet on this way.
But so far this direction feels easier?
She feels a little softer.
Okay.
Like a little more willing to be there.
Okay.
Her forward isn't as good this way though.
Now, one of the tools you'll notice that Emily's using is she's riding with a riding stick, and that she's using primarily to keep the horse moving forward. So when you start riding and using your legs to isolate different positions and movements, you can't also be using your legs to keep the horse going forward. And most horses are going to want to slow down when you start putting them in these tighter positions and playing with their flexions. And so she's using that stick to help keep the forward as she's going. And again, for a dressage rider, that's very important. I like that downward transition. Okay, so we're gonna do that at canter as well. But before we do that, let's play a little bit with, just at a walk, controlling her haunches.
Okay.
So I want you to keep her on the circle, and instead of doing it in a straight line, you're going to do it off the circle, which can be a little bit harder than on a straight line. So I want you to just bring her hip in and only hold it for 3 or 4 strides. What I'm looking for when I'm testing this, because again, we're testing these things ultimately to be able to do it at a canter. So it's like, can we canter and isolate her flexion and her haunches? If we can do that at a canter, you can change leads on a horse fairly easily. So what I'm looking for here is not how long she can hold that position. I'm looking for the quality of response. So when you put your leg back with minimal pressure, will she easily move her hip in and keep the flexion and have all those pieces stay there for a few strides?
Only to the inside.
We're going to do both, to the inside and to the outside.
Okay.
And part of the reason we're doing it to the inside and the outside is, again, if you're counter cantering a horse, that means you're traveling in a right direction on the outside lead, the left lead. That would be a counter canter. And so the horse's hindquarters are going to need to stay engaged to the outside to stay on that lead. And counter canter is more of a, in the dressage test that the owner's going to have to ride at a show, that's going to be the maneuver they're asking for. But the reason it's in there is dressage has a scale through the levels that is the same or very similar sequence that you would use for training a horse to get to like Grand Prix level movements. And so isolating the hindquarters and being able to do counter canter and canter leg yields are some of the prerequisites to doing flying lead changes. So that looked pretty easy. Would you say that was pretty good? Like she understood that position?
Yeah.
So now, and this time when she does the flexion, all she's gonna do is just tip the nose to where she could see the corner of that horse's eye and it would be in line with her knee. So she's not gonna exaggerate the flexion like she did with the flexion exercise. So you can see her nose is still mostly straight. That's very nice. Now go ahead and tip her nose to the outside, or sorry, bring her hindquarters to the outside.
Keep the flexion in.
Nope. So flexion to the left and haunches out now. Because this would emulate a little bit of the feel that the horse would have, the rider would have for riding a counter canter. So that was a little harder. She had some stutter steps there and wasn't quite as smooth. But can you see how we're just playing with some of these isolations just at a walk and just testing where they're at? So if somebody tells me they're having trouble with counter cantering or lead changes, I'm almost always going to try to find holes in the slower movements because it's much easier to fix things going slow at a walk or a trot than it is at the canter. At the canter is, the way I think of it, is a little bit more of the test of how well they understood it at a walk or a trot versus trying to just teach it there. Good. So that, to me, that looked way smoother. That was easier to do. Okay. Very nice. Now let's reverse. We'll go the other way. So same thing. So you're doing haunches out first? Okay.
I did haunches in. Wasn't enough. Now I'm in haunches out.
Yep. And then that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do haunches in again. Good, I like that. You can see the horse transition between those two quite easily. That was very nice. So now, what I'm going to have you test, and from what she was kind of telling me beforehand, is the horse could kind of easily, when you change the flexion at the canter, anticipate changing lead. So this horse had a kind of a week or two of doing flying changes before she came here, and she can anticipate that when she starts doing a canter leg yield or a counter canter, she'll try to change when the rider didn't ask her to, and then it gets real messy because the rider's not asking for the change at that time. So what I would like to do is have her canter a big circle here, so a 20-meter circle on this end of the arena, and I want you to do the same exercise with the flexions that we did at a walk a minute ago.
Okay, just the neck.
Yep. So you're just gonna, can you change the flexion from inside to outside?
Okay.
While maintaining a canter and staying on the same line of the circle.
Okay.
The other thing I want to watch here is her canter departure. In order for the horse to be ready to do a flying lead change, that canter to walk has to really be there. And the horse has to stay soft in the rider's hands through the transition and be able to step right into that lope. Very good, very nice. So exaggerate to the inside, but keep her on that circle. A little more challenging at a canter?
Yeah, because she just gets really unsteady in her shoulders, which
yeah,
would happen anyways. Can I go to the outside?
Yep, now you can counter bend her to the outside. So this is like just isolating these yields. So for the counter canter, she's going to have her flexion on that side, but this is just isolating the flexion but not actually counter cantering. She's still traveling to the left even though her nose is tipped to the right. Very good. Then we'll do that on the other side when you're ready. Good job.
Thanks.
I really like how she's setting up that canter departure. She makes sure the horse's body and mind is in the right position before she asks for it. So that's why you see her taking her time here, getting that fixed up. a good phrase to kind of keep in mind there is prepare to a position for a transition. When you're showing a horse in Western or dressage, English, whatever, one of the most important parts that the judge is watching for is the transitions. Transitions are the easy place for the mistakes to happen in, because that's where the rider and the horse can become kind of disconnected and be on different pages. Good.
This way is hard. She just wants to fall in. So I almost have to like keep my spur on a little bit.
Yeah, so just wait for her to feel soft on your hand. So it's more of a hold feel than a pull feel. So just like if we were standing still asking a horse for a lateral bend, lateral flexion at a standstill.
Okay, there.
Good. So softness comes from the horse understanding what's being asked and choosing to give versus the rider just taking it and pulling it. Ooh, I like that counter bend. Very nice.
Soft here.
Very good. Okay, now I want you to come through the middle when you're ready, and you're going to do a canter leg yield to the rail on the far side. So you can come down either this quarter line or the center line and canter leg yield over.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add in a little piece to this. So you're going to be on a right lead, leg yielding over, and for a leg yield, the horse's flexion is going to be to the left, slightly to the left, but the horse's direction of travel is going to be to the right. Okay, so that would be the leg yield versus a half pass. Okay, if she was doing a half pass, the horse's nose would be tipped that direction as well. But once you get over there, I want you to stop, bend her nose to the right, and then do haunches in to the right. Okay? The reason we're going to do this step is very important because I know that this horse can anticipate the flying lead change, and so we don't want her really thinking about that. We want her to kind of wait on the rider and isolate these things. So what's really interesting to me about horses is you can come all the way down to a standstill and achieve that position and let the horse find relief there from that canter leg yield. So the canter leg yield is kind of where the pressure's at. It's kind of the difficult thing to do. And the horse is going to find relief in that haunches out position. I say it's haunches out because you're going to do it to the right over on the far side. And if the horse finds comfort there, next time she comes through, it'll make setting up a counter canter at that end of the arena much easier. Very good. Very good. When it feels soft, go ahead and stop. Now haunches out, take your time, take your time. You got her a little too tight in the reins there. Release your hands a little bit and let her get relief in that position. Very good, very good. Now turn her loose. Super. So that was pretty good. So for a horse, if you're wanting them to get lighter off your leg and less in a hurry, this puts it all together because we're using the destination of getting to this spot to where the relief is. So if the horse thinks she's going to get relief over here, which is why you're standing still, so relief is the rider turning her loose, sitting still. We did that after the leg yield. And so that's going to help motivate the horse to want to get over there versus using your tools and getting bigger with her and kind of making her get over there more. So this is what I like to call let the pattern do the work, okay? So we're going to let the pattern of her seeking relief over here get her to want to get over there versus more pressure coming from outside here to make her get over there. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Now, if you do this too many times, you can create a negative anticipation. We're trying to create a positive anticipation. If you do it too many times, you'll create a negative anticipation of her stopping when you get here. And when I believe when the owner does the test, she's not going to stop here, she's going to keep going. And so you got to use your judgment and not overdo this, but use it when you need to. So if you feel her resistant or speedy to go here, you're going to do the opposite of that. You're going to stop and let her get relief in this position. And I would finish on the haunches out just so that she's for sure not anticipating the lead change, because I believe in the test she's not going to do a flying lead change. Is that correct?
No, she's going to canter, like she would be cantering right lead and she's going to come across the diagonal, not a leg yield.
Yeah.
And then she's just going to keep the counter canter for little bit on the
But we're
long
not doing
side.
a lead change.
No lead
Okay.
change.
But she still needs to yield off the leg and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So use this as needed, okay? So it's like, when this is where a rider that has more experience it's going to be very helpful. So Emily is experienced with this and she understands how that horse should feel. And so what I'm saying is, if she feels bracy, pushy, speedy, do this.
Yeah,
If she doesn't, then you have a green light to go ahead and finish the counter canter.
Okay.
If both of those are there, then you can think about trying a lead change.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So let's do the canter leg yield. So she's going to reverse and go back to the exact same pattern and leg yield her over again. And if that goes better or smoothly, then we'll try going into the counter canter from there. So if it feels good to you, you can go ahead and take her into the counter canter down here. If you feel any resistance there, then you can go ahead and release her on that spot again, okay?
Okay. And like speeding up, would that be resistance too?
Yes. So usually you would do this pattern 2 or 3 times, is maybe up to 5 times. That would be kind of a lot, but usually it only takes 2 or 3 times if the other pieces are there, and then you're kind of good to go, and then you can go into a counter canter or something else. Oh, I like it. I like it. Very good. Now you went ahead and stopped there, but did that one feel better?
It felt better, but she was still like really heavy in my hand. Like as I changed the bend from right to left to do the leg yield, she like just went into that rein.
Yeah. And
so like I could keep her speed better that time, but I just felt like she still
got
didn't
heavier in
turn
your hands.
loose.
Yeah. So one of the things, and out of the different tests that I gave you, the one that she had the most challenge with was changing the flexions.
Yeah.
And so that would probably be the main thing I would encourage you to incorporate more into your rides with her, is at a canter, whether even when you're going straight, play with exaggerating the flexions right and left and just keeping her supple there. But it's always, again, waiting until she gets soft to you and then turning it loose, not trying to take it.
Yeah.
Not using more arm strength and kind of making it happen. Set it up in a position and hold and wait for her to get soft to you, and then you could drop down a gear to a trot or a walk, or even, you know, all the way down, walk, turn her loose again. Or if it was relatively easy, then you could keep going with it.
Okay.
But I think isolating those flexions is going to be really critical for her. Should we try a counter canter?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So same lead,
thing.
same everything, only you're going to go into a counter canter from here. Keep enough inside leg on. Straight. Keep going. Very good. Oh. Now finish and haunches out there. Haunches out. So I think there she needed a little bit more support with your leg. I feel like your leg got a little bit too relaxed there. For me, when I'm counter cantering, I'm going to keep my leg on. Not the spur is on, but I want contact there to reassure the horse that, yes, I'm keeping you in that outside lead. And that's kind of the anticipation that we see the horse making. So the correction would be, don't like fire them back up and push them into the canter and try to change leads or something back to the correct lead, which was the counter lead in this instance, but actually finish in this position of haunches out. So come down to a standstill, bring that haunches to the outside, and that's what I do there. But I think you could support her a little bit more with your inside leg as you come through there. Let's go ahead and do that again. But I see a lot of people when they have trouble in that position, they would be inclined to like, oh, no, I didn't ask for that. And they'd put their leg on really strong and try to change leads back to the counter lead. And that's just going to make a mess of things. That horse is going to get really jazzed up. They're probably not going to be thinking at that moment, because she didn't change the leads because she felt a little uncomfortable at the counter canter. But it was more of the horse needing to understand what the rider was asking for more there, versus the horse trying to be like, the horse isn't trying to be bad or willful there. So support with that left leg. So left leg's on, so you're riding the right lead. Ride, ride, ride. Yes, ride. Good job. Whoop. So she started slowing down a little bit there, and that's why I was saying ride. Like you need to kind of keep her, you need to keep a little bit more speed through that.
What feels hard there is from a leg yield, I'm in a left bend. And then in the counter canter,
You're in a right bend?
I'm in a right bend, and then she gets so out of balance.
Yeah.
And she just.
So if you want to do the counter canter, you can just come through the diagonal.
Oh, and not do a leg yield.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Oh, okay. All right, let's try that. Like, I feel like it's in that like I changed the flexion, and then she's like, that was hard. I'm gonna do something.
Yes, but I would also suggest that she needs to be more adjustable there.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
We're going to keep going here with this lesson, but what Emily's going to do moving forward here is she needs to play with the flexions more, meaning trotting and cantering and changing the flexions and getting the horse more comfortable. To me, that was what we kind of discovered was a bit of the issue in this ride, more so than moving off the leg or the vertical flexion or any of that stuff. It was more the lateral bends and isolating that. Keep your leg on. Keep going. Yes, oh good. So she almost came out of it, but Emily was able to keep her there. Keep counter cantering down there too. Yes, yes. And walk and finish in haunches out.
In a walk or a standstill?
Walk. Good. Now turn her loose. Very good. So for me, we don't have a green light to do a flying change until she can do these things a little bit easier. We're right there, we're right at the cusp of it, but the horse needs a little bit more certainty about those things, and it'll be very easy. The flying lead change should be a maneuver that we release the horse to. And she was already thinking about the lead change. We can see that by how she's changing leads from the counter canter. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a positive. I like that the horse is wanting that lead. But she has to be willing to let the rider keep her in this position and get a little bit more comfortable with the counter canter before we try a lead change.
Okay.
Does that sound like a good plan?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what your homework is?
Yeah, I need to work on being able to bend her in the canter and have her get soft to each rein. And then her haunches were pretty maneuverable.
Pretty good, yeah.
So it's more of then like asking for harder things in the canter, like a leg yield or counter canter.
Yes.
And that
even a harder transition, like going from a leg yield into a counter canter. Yeah. Super.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, well, keep up the good work. And just, one of the things that I would encourage everybody to do, like Emily very much has on her mind the show that's coming up, making sure the horse is ready. But one of the things that I think is an important phrase to kind of take away from this is we exaggerate to teach and refine as we go along. Mm-hmm. And so what a person could run into trouble with in Emily's scenario is Emily's a very good rider. She's a strong rider. And what she could be tempted to do is use her certainty and confidence in these maneuvers and positions to kind of make the horse get through the pattern versus being comfortable with allowing the horse to make some of those mistakes in setting up more challenging patterns, like over-exaggerating the flexion, transitioning from counter leg or a leg yield into the counter canter, not just across the diagonal. Yeah. And so it's okay to let that horse make some mistakes. Those are the learning opportunities, versus you using your kind of confidence riding to just get the horse through it. The more you let her make mistakes and find where the relief is, the more sure she'll be and have responsibility through those patterns. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good job. Keep up the good work.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll see you on the next one.